Last episode on the Lesbian Romantic Podcast. There is no way I am getting on an airplane to meet a couple of stuck-up bloggers, Emily said.
You have to, Emily. You're our VP of Product Development.
She was about to open the first email when a passerby slammed straight into her. Emily's phone flew out of her hand, hit the pavement, bounced a couple of times, and then ended up on the street. Emily pulled the card from her notebook. It was a business card with a name, a phone number, an email address, and the website. Realization dawned. This woman was insane. She tucked her card in the notebook before giving it back. At least Emily knew she hadn't imagined the teasing and playfulness, or the wink. Emily turned the card around. It had the name of the website in a bigger font on the other side. She frowned and took another look at the name. Leah Hexington. No job title. Emily debated for a second, and then threw away Leah's card. After all, there was no reason to keep it. Welcome to episode 15 of the Lesbian Romantic Podcast. This is The Blogger Story, Part 2.
She just stared. It was crazy.
Jeez, what a freak, Claire said. Leah was telling Claire about her awkward encounter with the woman she'd bumped into on the street. Yeah, I know. I thought she was going to start screaming after she picked up that phone, but she just stared at me, and the look on her face when I ran into her again. Claire shook her head, amused. Was it something fancy, the phone? Leah rolled her eyes. Always obsessed and always at work, aren't you? She gave Claire a friendly shove and started to reach out for the bottle of wine on the table between them. Okay, Claire said. You're right. Let's talk about something else than phones and work. Let's see. When was the last time we've seen other friends or people? Leah laughed. Ages ago. Soon we'll start dressing the same, my dear. Claire sat back in her chair. Oh no, I am not part of that family, my friend. Unlike you, I'd love to spend some time with a male friend now and then. Leah sighed. I see your point. I'm getting a bit tired of you too. Leah continued the teasing.
Ouch.
Claire pretended to be hurt and grabbed at her heart as if an arrow had just hit her. Leah giggled. Claire was a great pretend drama queen.
You are so over the top.
Leah and Claire were great friends and did spend most of their time together. A lot of people actually thought they were a couple, but Leah and Claire had never been lovers, just best friends, and they did have a small media business together. Leah filled up their glasses with the red wine. So, quick check of our email despite the no smartphone rule tonight? Leah asked. Claire grinned. Now you're talking, you little addict. Leah stuck her tongue out at Claire and reached for her phone. Claire quickly did the same. Oh boy, more press releases, Leah sighed. Leah and Claire published articles and videos about all sorts of tech devices for different online publications. They also had their own blog. The tech companies certainly always knew where to find them. Claire and Leah got an endless stream of press releases and personal emails to ask if they were interested in an interview with some wannabe tech rock star. Leah and Claire also got invited to big press events and trips almost every week. They spent a fair amount of their time traveling. Leah and Claire had been in Brussels these last 2 days, attending a pre-launch event of a new smartphone. Leah started scrolling through a long list of uninteresting press announcements when she spotted the email of a small digital PR agency she had been hearing about quite a lot lately. They had signed some big clients despite only having a very small team. She opened the email. It was a short invitation. One of the account managers wanted to meet them. A general talk about their company, as he described it, and there was a project he was working on that might interest him. "Hey, we got an email from that new agency."
What?
She passed the phone to Claire. "It's from a Greg Holloway. He wants to meet us." Claire scanned the email. "Sounds good. Why don't you answer? We'd love to meet up." Leah nodded and accepted her phone back. She started typing a reply to the agency. She wasn't sure what more she could say than, "Yeah, hi, we'd love to meet." So she sent off the short email. "Do you want anything else to drink while you wait, ladies?" No, merci, thank you," Leah replied to the friendly waitress. "We still have some wine left." "Okay, just call me if you need me," Leah smiled. "I will." Leah started scrolling through her emails again. At the top of the list, a new email from Greg had arrived. Whoa, that Greg guy already answered. Claire just mumbled.
Okay.
Leah checked the clock in the top corner of her screen. It was after 9 in the evening. She read the email. "Hi, Leah. I know you are in Brussels this week for the pre-launch of the Star 7. I'm here as well until tomorrow night. Any chance we can meet up tomorrow morning?" Meeting Greg tomorrow morning was far from ideal. Leah wanted to do some sightseeing now that the events they had to attend were all behind them. They'd return to the States the day after tomorrow. "Hey, Claire?" Claire looked up. "That new agency already wants to meet us in the morning." "Tomorrow morning? Geez, this guy is in a rush. I have to finish that review, but why don't you go?" Claire said. Leah didn't like meeting Greg alone, but she did know Claire really needed the morning to finish up that important article. "Okay, I'll set it up." "Okay," Leah typed. "I'm available after 10. She sent off the email again. The waitress arrived with their food. Delicious smells wafted from the steamy plates. Claire and Leah quickly put their phones away and leaned back so the waitress could place their order on the table. "Et voilà, mesdames. Bon appétit." "Merci." "Merci."
God, this looks amazing. I know. This looks so good. Let's attack.
The next morning, Leah had awoken with a slight hangover. Just great, she thought, but she knew she herself had caused this anguish. She took some aspirin before going to that meeting. Greg had replied last night he'd meet her at the City Hotel at 10 a.m. It was now 9:50, and she was on her way over. She knew where the hotel was, despite being in a foreign city. It was the same hotel she and Claire had attended the launch event at a couple of days ago. And it was close by the spot where she'd bumped into the strange woman yesterday. Oh, the woman. Leah cringed when she thought about what she'd done. She had put her business card in the woman's notebook. Leah never did that kind of stuff. She still couldn't explain to herself why she had been so bold. Leah quickly checked her phone for missed calls or messages. Nothing. She was relieved. Who knew what kind of person she'd given her card to? The strange woman really had just stared at her. Maybe she was like a maniac.
Bonjour, madame.
5 minutes later, Leah walked into the lobby of the expensive hotel. They had arranged to meet in the bar, but by the looks of it, there were several bars. She picked the least formal one and sat down at a table. She looked around, observing the other guests. When no one fit the picture of Greg, she'd looked up his Twitter profile on her way over, she grabbed her smartphone. She opened up Twitter again. There had been a bit of a fuss yesterday afternoon about one of the biggest technology companies messing up press events in Asia yesterday. She was still enjoying the tweets from other reporters. "Are you Leah?" She looked up, smiled, and nodded. "I'm Greg. He sat down on the opposite chair and started looking around for a waiter. When he spotted one, he waved. "So, how are you liking Brussels?" he asked. "I haven't seen that much of it yet, to be honest," said Leah. "I might go out and visit some things later." "Good," he beamed. "I love this city, so I won't take a lot of your time." The waiter finally arrived. A short man in a black suit and tie. "A cappuccino, please," Greg said. The man nodded and turned to Leah. "Just a glass of water, please." The odd man nodded again and then was off, without a word. Leah watched him leave in surprise. So unfriendly. "So, I won't bore you with our official agency pitch, and I know plenty about you and Claire." Leah shifted her focus back to Greg. He was smiling at her and scratched his beard. It was one of those hipster agency kind of beards. "I'll get straight to the point. I've been working on this great concept for Sanders Tech. We want to send 3 bloggers on a road trip with one of their most influential executives. It's a VP. Leah arched an eyebrow. This concept was hardly new. No, Greg interrupted her thoughts. I see what you're thinking. I mean a real road trip, no luxury. All in one car, several days, several locations, and staying in motels, no fancy hotels. And in the meantime, of course, you blog, you send out tweets about what you're doing and all that stuff. Leah still thought the concept was cliché. She had been on plenty of trips organized and paid for by technology brands. The only thing that was different was the lack of luxury by the sounds of it. It's going to be so much fun, you know? And it's kind of revolutionary. We got this hotshot to join the trip. We had to push really hard on their VP marketing to make it happen. We really believe it will give a different kind of peek behind the scenes of a very large corporation. Is it the VP marketing joining the group? Leah asked. Sanders Tech was a huge corporation, and the VP marketing manager on the road with bloggers for several days would be kind of crazy. Nope, Greg grinned. Even better. Leah frowned. It's not the CEO, right? Leah asked, mostly kidding. Nope, but she might be the CEO one day. It's the VP Research and Development. Leah had to think for a second. Wait, the one that still designs phones herself, even now that she's a VP, and rarely gives interviews? Emily something? That's the one. Emily Harris. Not bad, Leah had to admit. Now I am kind of curious about this trip. I thought you would be. Greg smiled triumphantly. Leah couldn't stop herself from asking the next question. But why? Why this trip? Greg sat back a little. Because we believe this company does not get enough credit for its innovations. A couple of days on the road with Emily Harris will give you unique insights on the amazing stuff they're doing, that she's doing, he added. There's one catch, though. I can only invite one of you two. There's only room for 3, and we want 3 different publications. Leah nodded. She understood, but was still disappointed. I'll have to discuss it with Claire. Greg nodded and shifted in his chair, trying to locate the waiter. They sure are taking their time, he sighed, then turned and smiled at her. Of course you have to discuss it, I understand. Leah smiled as she saw his restlessness building over the lack of coffee. When is this trip? Greg tried waving at another waiter, but was clearly ignored. We'll have to finalize the details, but in 2 or 3 weeks, so pretty soon. Leah was surprised. It was not uncommon for tech companies to do last-minute PR stunts, but this seemed a bit crazy. And how many days is the trip? We're planning on 5 days. Oh, whoa. So, do you think you can give me your answer, like today or tomorrow? Greg had given up on his quest for coffee now, and was looking at her, expectantly. Yeah, sure. I'll discuss it with Claire later today. Perfect. Greg beamed. I'd really love it if you could join. I think you're the best fit. I'll send you some more details on the dates and location in a couple of hours. Leah arched an eyebrow. Why me? Greg grinned. Well, you both write for big publications and you have your own website together, but you are the one obsessed with new gimmicks, gadgets, and crazy technology. Greg had a point. Claire often called Leah Inspector Gadget. So Leah nodded in understanding. She was getting a headache, though. Her hangover was getting worse. Greg's proposal was a bit overwhelming, too. She checked her watch. Okay, I think I'm going to give up on the drinks and go for the sightseeing. Leah thought, or a nap in the hotel, but she was hardly going to tell Greg that. Sure, Greg said. I think I'll go some other place for that cappuccino, too. He got up from his chair and looked around. Leah suddenly thought of another question. One last question. Where is this road trip? I thought you'd never ask, Greg replied loudly. It's in... This was episode 15 of the Lesbian Romantic Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this podcast, please leave a review on iTunes so other people can discover it too. If you like lesbian fiction, check my website lesbianromantic.com for lesbian fiction reviews and audiobook reviews. You can also find more info and news about this podcast. See you next week.